Well, today marks a sad anniversary for both NASA and the United States. On this morning, 35 years ago, the Challenger space shuttle blew up shortly after taking off, killing the 7 crew members on board. Well, Montana astronaut Lauren Acton flew on the Challenger less than a year before the disaster. Q2's Krista Rose caught up with Acton, who recalled that tragic day.
Space Shuttle Challenger. Liftoff from a freezing cold Florida to the cheers of the young students of the first ever U.S. teacher astronaut. Moments later, full throttle and point of highest stress. A massive explosion. The cheering stops. The horror sinks in. 7 Americans with the highest hopes, $1 billion worth of the highest technology. Gone in seconds. The worst disaster in the U.S. space program ever.
On January 28, 1986, America was shocked by the Challenger explosion. Just a few months before the disaster, Montana astronaut Lauren Acton flew on Challenger's penultimate mission. But at the time of the tragedy, Lauren was over 2,000 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center in northern Wyoming, waiting to speak to a group of junior high school students about being an astronaut.
I was standing on the stage of the junior high school in Worland, Wyoming, ready to talk to 700 junior high kids about my space experience, when somebody came trotting down the aisle and said, "Did you know that the Challenger had blown up?" So I went ahead and gave my talk.
Lauren, like so many, was saddened by the tragedy. But after he got off the stage, he went right to work. He spent the rest of the day at the school talking to different media outlets around the country about his former shuttle.
Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
I don't know if you realize that the real astronauts, the career people, were embargoed. They weren't allowed to talk to the press. So those few of us who had flown but weren't NASA employees were in great demand. At the time that it happened, the day it happened, the reasons behind why it happened weren't known. So I can't remember all the kinds of questions, but they're the questions you might expect. And I did my best to answer them. At the end of that day, I tell you, I was a tired out guy.
Challenger had had issues even on Lauren's mission back in July of 1985. At T-minus 3 seconds, their launch was aborted due to the malfunction of a coolant valve that caused the shutdown of all 3 main engines. The issue was eventually fixed, and 2 weeks later, Lauren's crew had a successful launch and mission. It's unsettling to think, however, that just 6 months later, a ruptured fuel tank on that very same shuttle would take the lives of a crew just like Lauren's.
Departed for the shuttle this morning. Future astronaut Krista McAuliffe said they had gotten over the frustration.
When it finally was figured out why we lost that mission, I was really, really grumped off because it was totally unnecessary. It was because of a lack of communication between Marshall Space Flight Center, who's responsible for the rockets, and NASA Space Flight Center, who's responsible for making the final decision about whether to go or not. They weren't communicating the way they should have. And that we should never have tried to launch that day.
Though the Challenger was lost, its legacy lives on, and its crew is not forgotten. Reporting in Billings, Krista Rose, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Chris.